Hello everyone, welcome back to Howling Hoosier Outdoors, and today once again I am trapped inside on a business trip, so I figured I'd take a episode to actually stop and talk about a lot of options that are available to you if you wanted to get into slinging as far as ammunition goes. Because there's a lot of really cool videos out there, but there's not a whole lot that really talk about like training or making your own or, things like that. So, yeah, let's get right into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is that different ammo is going to work better in different types of slings. So certain pieces of ammo are going to work better in like a split pouch Balearic sling, while others are going to work better in like a woven pouch sling. And that's really just on you to find out what your preferences are and what works best for your type of style of slinging. So the first thing that we want to talk about is the good old-fashioned tennis ball. And these things are a great tool to start off with when you're trying to learn how to sling. I use these in my split pouch and they work phenomenal because the split pouch will actually hug it nice and great. So when you're lobbing it, it gives a good grip, it gives a really good return on it. But also these things are really, they're not destructive. If this hits a person on accident, it's not going to hurt them. If this hits like a window, it's not going to cause damage, it's not going to break the window. If you accidentally bounced off someone's car, it's probably not going to leave a dent. And so these things are a great way just to get started. That's what I started learning to sling on, and yeah, not really a whole lot else. It's just, and they're cheap. They're cheap, they're reusable, they're bright colored, so if you lose them in the woods, you're probably going to find them again. There's just really no downside to these things. The next one I want to talk about is actually these foam golf balls. And these will also work really well with either type of sling. But the cool thing about these is that these things cannot cause damage. These, again, like they're nice, they're bright colored, they're not going to get lost in the woods on you. But it does not matter how hard you sling these. These aren't going to hurt anybody. Me and a couple other people would actually sling these back and forth at each other for like combat training with our slings. And yeah, it hits about as hard as a Nerf dart if you actually get hit by one of these. But yeah, and again, these come in they're cheap and they're reusable, so you can get them in packs of 12. Or I've even seen like them sell entire buckets of these things at sporting goods stores. So yeah, foam golf balls, really good. Highly recommend these things for training. So once you're tired of slinging stuff that's like foam or like a little less destructive, to take it up a little bit, if you're ready to start experimenting with your own types of ammunition, you can work with this Crayola modeling clay stuff. And when this stuff hardens, it's going to harden into like a hard foam. So it's gonna sting if you actually get hit with one of these, and they have more mass to it. But the cool thing is that they're not gonna cause a lot of damage, and it gives you the option to make your own stuff with them. So if you wanted to make stuff like river rock or stuff that resembles the old-fashioned bullets that the old slingers would have used back in the medieval times and whatnot, you have that option with these. And yeah, the thing is, the issue that I have with these is that there's a long dry time on them. It's typically like a day or two, but they're also expensive. I can typically, out of a pack this size, I can typically get 10 to 15 shots out of them, depending on what I'm making and how big I'm making. And it's cool because you can get a lot of different colors in them, but if you go with like the darker colors, you're gonna lose these things when you start slinging them. So it's just something it's an option for you to experiment with, but it's kind of like one of those graduating steps up. It's a step up from the golf ball, but still a step down from next one we're going to talk about. So next one we're going to talk about is actually a different version of clay, and it is actually this air dry clay. And when these things when these things finally get done drying, they are hard as a rock. They are dried clay, almost like a terracotta. And again, the cool thing about these is you can model them into whatever shape you want as far as throwing goes. So you can use little round balls like this. You can make them into something like a river rock shape, like these guys here. Or you can make them, again, into like the medieval Balearic style bullets. And these things, like, if you make them into the bullet shape, they zip through the air. Like, it sounds incredible. But They are very hard. If you hit something with it, it's going to cause damage. It will break a window. It will put a good dent in plywood. From firsthand experience, I can attest to that one. Yeah, so if you're actually trying to up your game and maybe, depending on your area, if you're trying to do hunting or actual target practice with these things, this is a good way, this type of clay is a good place to go for it. And it's cheap. So this is the 2.5 pound tub that you can get. I've also seen 5 pound buckets of these things. I can typically get about 50 shots out of these, and then they're white, so you can paint them whatever color you want. So if you want a high vis orange so you don't lose them, that's an option that's available to you. If you want it to be more of like an earth color, you can also paint them that way too. One disadvantage about these guys is that they are water soluble. If you get them in water, or if they get wet, they'll start breaking down all over again, which is kind of a good bad thing, because that means that they're biodegradable, but not sustainable if you're in a high humid climate or anything like that. So just something to keep in mind. Next one that we're going to talk about is river rock. So these things are great because they're free, but they're kind of a one-shot pony. And they're also always inconsistent, so your accuracy, if you're used to slinging all golf balls or something that's really consistent and uniform, these are going to fly a lot different each time that you throw. But I'd be neglecting everybody if I didn't just say, hey, go down to your local riverbed, there's free ammo there. You got options. And the last one that we're going to talk about is just lead shot. So this is actually a lead 3-ounce egg fishing weight. And you can order these in bulk off of the internet. You can get them in sizes from 1 ounce all the way up to 3 ounces. And this is like the creme de la creme ammunition if you're actually trying to use it with the intent of it being a survival purpose or a self-defense or whatever. If you're actively trying to use it to cause damage to something, these are the best that you could do. Again, if you sling this thing, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt whatever you hit with it. But you're going to get a lot of uniform accuracy out of it. You're just going to, you can decorate it. I've seen people do like little inscriptions and personalize them and whatnot, but they're also going to go missing in the woods unless you spray paint them, but spray paint doesn't like to stick to lead all that well in my experience. So yeah, hope that gave you guys something to think about. Hopefully this kind of expanded your thought process on what can and can't be used as like sling ammo, some of the advantages and disadvantages of them. The cool thing about slinging, though, is that there are so many different things out there that you can play around with, and then you can work on just to develop your skill set, and then experiment with ammo, and then experiment with other things. There's a gentleman out there I've seen who's experimenting with rebar, where he'll get like inch-thick rebar and like cut them and make them all, shape them, and those are apparently working really, really well for him too. So it's like there's a lot of cool things that you can play around with. That's really all I got. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, questionable life choices, or epiphanies, please feel free to leave them in the comments section. Thank you all for watching. Stay awesome, folks.